Namaste. Video 2. So my last video I spoke about how I see the personal world and the social world. And because we have these two overlapping worlds, two experiences of, when I say we, I want to clarify. I'm speaking from my own experience. This is how I envision life on Earth. You may have a different opinion, a different experience, in which case, please take what you want, leave the rest. I'm just sharing my unique perspective, because if I don't, then when I die, all that I've learned, nobody will be able to stand on or build upon what I know, what I've learned. So that's the reason for these videos. So if you can find something of value, please accept it. And if there's nothing of value, push it aside and move on. Enjoy your life. In any case, I do hope that you enjoy your life. So my personal world is what happens more or less behind closed doors. Now, as I walk through life, whatever is going on, it's behind closed doors, because nobody can see what's going on from in here looking out, unless, of course, you're a mind reader, or someone who is able to project themselves into the body of another. I've never met one of these people. I've never met a telepath, but I have heard that there are some out there. So in my personal world, one of the difficulties that I find is how to explain my experience to other people. Because I was raised with a language processing experience of victimhood, blaming others. I see it all over the place. You see it too, because if you ever hear the words, "He made me so mad," or "She pissed me off," or things of that nature, it made me mad. I'm a good one with that, especially when it comes to electronics. People don't anger me very much, but electronics, that can get to me. So how do I let you know what my personal world is all about? And is my personal world of any real importance? These are definitive questions in my experience. So one of the most important aspects of life is learning to communicate well. I'm not going to say that I'm really good at it. I have studied and I've done some work, but I still have a long way to go. The way that I know this is there's a lot of miscommunication that happens, but I try. And one of the things that I've recognized is that when we're children, and growing up through adolescence, the languaging that we learn, because of the fact that we are not 100% responsible for our own lives, we learn to pawn off or to project power onto other people, because when we're growing up and living at home, our parents have power over our actions. So we get used to saying things like, "You make me mad," or "They hurt me emotionally." Now here's the thing about thoughts and emotions and feelings. They are, one, invisible. Have you ever seen an emotion? Yeah, I know there's a few of you out there who see auras and things of that nature. But barring those, have you ever seen an emotion? How about a feeling? Have you ever seen a thought while it's going on? You see people thinking, but have you ever seen the thought? And so thoughts and feelings and emotions are subjective to the person feeling them and thinking them, right? I have my thoughts going on up here. That's basically where they're located. And I can't blame my thoughts on anyone else. They're my thoughts. They're going on in this head. And so for me to say, you make me think, no, you don't make me think at all. You may trigger a thought pattern in me, but it's my thoughts. And if it's triggered, well, it's my trigger, and I'm going to deal with it myself. It's my problem. Whatever you think is your problem. And so the way that we can come together is if we both learn to speak and listen in such a way that we recognize that all the other person is doing is sharing their own personal world with us in our social world. They're saying, my personal world includes this upset. My personal world includes this inability to control my thoughts, my inability to control my emotions, my inability to control my feelings, or to maybe not control, that might be the wrong word, but more along the lines of, I don't know what to do with this. What do I do with these heavy emotions? Personally, on my own experience, I have broken many a cell phone, and many of back when the phones were just coming out where they were remote, those 2Gs or whatever it was, 2.4 gigahertz phones, or even the 900 megahertz phones. I remember taking one in 2001 and just slamming it. Wait, it wasn't even 2001. It was earlier than that. No, it was around 2001. I took this phone. I just bought it. It was $300, and the thing wasn't working properly. I just slammed it against the desk and threw it across the room into the wall, and I ran over there and I stomped on it, and then I thought, well, that was dumb. And it was like all that anger just poofed. But it was all my trigger. It was all my doing. Back then, I didn't know how to handle my emotions in that way. I don't break things anywhere near as often. It's been a while since I last broke one. I can't say that I'm completely done with that, but the trigger is no longer a hair trigger. So, in learning how to communicate our own world, what our world is like, our personal world is like, the childhood form of communication isn't compatible, isn't adequate to adult relations, whether it's relations between business partners or romantic partners. I've been moderating a advice group, a relationship advice group for a year or so, and there's about 200,000 people in the group, mostly young people, and they give all kinds of problems that they're having in their relationship, some of which, well, I would say probably 70% has to do with just inadequate communication skills. If they would, my number one recommendation to anybody in relationship is sit down with your loved one. If you're having troubles relating with someone, if people are having difficulty understanding each other, sit down and read a communication book together, out loud. That way you have the ability to discuss things in real time. And when I say discuss things, make a pact before you read this communication book or any communication book. Make a pact before you start that you are going to table any disagreements. And for the duration of the time that you're reading and you're discussing what you're reading, you're not going to touch on those super trigger points. Instead, you're going to practice what you read. Because what this does is once you realize that All thoughts, feelings, and emotions are invisible, immaterial, and subjective only to the person who is experiencing them. So if you've got your feelings hurt, they're your feelings. You did it. It's yours. Own it. Once you own that, hey, nobody can hurt my feelings but me. I have to somehow or another agree with you. If you are calling me a name, I have to agree with you in order for me to take it personally. You know, if I don't agree with you, then I just think you're either blind or crazy. You know, you can't see the truth, and you're just flat insane. So you can call me all the names you want or describe me any way you want, and if I don't agree with you, it's not going to bother me in the slightest. Well, the only way that's going to happen is if I know me from the ground up. Do I know who I am? Have I accepted my faults, quote unquote? What's a fault? Topic for a different discussion. So, by reading a communication book together, it gives both participants a common framework and language to discuss the important aspects of adulting and adulting in relationship. Because a relationship, you and I have a relationship. I don't even know who's looking at this video, but you and I presently have a relationship because my intention is towards you. Your intention is towards me. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching the video. So, in order for me to describe my personal world in a way for you that you can understand, I have to increase my vocabulary. I have to learn how to speak in such a way that I'm sharing my own experience rather than telling you what your experience is. I don't know what your experience is. I just know what my experience is. And as a veteran dance instructor, I learned how to teach a long time ago. And I'm still learning how to teach. As these videos, if you follow along, you'll see that undoubtedly I'll get better at them. Just doing these is already creating some changes in my own life. But if I don't know how to listen to you when you talk to me, if I don't know how to listen beyond the words, because a lot of people don't understand that the languaging skills that we learn early in life are not adequate for heavy discussion. Anytime you place blame on someone else for feelings, thoughts, or emotions, then you're playing the victim card. And that's not what being an adult is, in my opinion. Being an adult, in my opinion, is knowing who you are completely. I don't want to, I've told people for many years, I don't want to die. I've lived in this body for over 60 years now. And if there is something about my psychology or my actions that I am not completely cognizant of, if I don't really know what's going on, why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, then how can I possibly say that I know anybody else? Because I've spent 24/7 for 60 years in this body, listening to my thoughts, paying attention to whatever's going on in here, whatever's going on out here in my own personal world. With my own mother, who is one of my very closest friends, we really didn't spend that much time together. I mean, did we, Mom? If you happen to watch this. There were many times when, like, she was out to work or I was doing my thing or whatever. You know, we weren't actually in engagement with each other and discussing things. And so I can't. One time I did this test. There was a book, a small book called the Book of Questions, a little book of questions. And it was like 365 books plus some extras that were designed to just spark conversation. Like if you had to leave the state and could never step back in foot or step back in the state, or if you had to stay in the state and never step out of the state, which would you choose and why? And or if there were 100, if I laid up 10 guns and only one gun had a bullet in it, and you would get $10 million if you reached down, got a gun, and put it to your forehead and pulled the trigger. Would you take the risk? Oh, and if you lived, then you would get $10 million. Well, I thought that I knew my mother very well, so I randomly picked 5 questions and answered them as I thought that she would answer them. I got every one of them wrong. We don't know the people closest to us. They have their personal world, and all we can see of their personal world is what's in the social world. If they let us in a little bit, then we get to see a little bit more of their personal world. But even there's something else going on inside their mind that's not going inside ours. So learning to communicate well without blame is a great benefit. I recommend Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Compassion by Marshall Rosenberg. That's an excellent book, has a lot of information in it. It was one of the ones that made the most impact. I also recommend Radical Honesty by Blanton and Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott. These are all really good books for learning how to communicate in a way that others may be able to hear what you're saying about your world. So, before this gets any longer, I will let this one go. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. If you have any suggestions, again, put them in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and may every day, every moment be beautiful for you. Namaste.